Thanks for joining us. We are the Center for Leadership and Community Engagement at Central Washington University. I'm Kylie Wright.
I'm Tommy Fernandez. How's it going, Wildcats?
Glad to have you back, Tommy. Word to the Wildcats is a 5-week series designed to provide space for notable CWU alumni and CWU educators to share stories of growth, resilience, and leadership with current Wildcat student body. Through Word to the Wildcats, we hope to share relatable life lessons that current CWU students and community members can apply to their personal story. Today we have Richard Penton, the Executive Director of Sky Movement, a company focused on artist management, event production, and publishing. Thanks for joining us today. To start, can you share a little bit about your experience at Central and how persistence and consistency guided you in pursuing your goals?
Yeah. Hey, everybody there at Central. I'm glad to be a part of this. Persistence, man, it took me a lot to even kind of go to Central after taking my first recruiting trips, only because, you know, I'm kind of from the city. And when I first got there, it was, I don't know if it's the same way now, but it was just it's like a cow slaughter town.
Down.
You know, it was going down with, it was I-90, just nothing, and then cow slaughter, you know, cows and everything. And then if you go into the town, you see a campus, you know. So, yeah, man, I mean, after going there, though, and actually visiting the town, I felt like it was a place that I could, you know, get an education and kind of lend my talents as well. So, but yeah, as far as like persistence and consistency, man, I mean, going from the city to a location like that, man, and still, you know, honestly, when I first got there, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but as I went to school there, I kind of found my niche and what I was good at, and it was all about, you know, connecting with people, bringing people together, and, you know, that kind of thing. I wanted to figure out, you know, what I could go to school for, and then also learn while I'm at school, and kind of put a lot of that to task, you know. So instead of just going to a marketing class and just kind of learning and waiting until I get out of school, I tried to apply some of those things that I learned like right away, you know. And so that was cool. It was almost like experimental, you know, in that case. And so one of the things I felt like I was good at, like I said, kind of bringing people together, I started getting into like the activity board stuff. I started throwing like big events there. Started, you know, doing some stuff at the radio station, volunteered in multiple student organizations. And, you know, once I found, you know, that I was good at bringing people together, that's when I kind of started doing the events, you know. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of created a platform for me to, like, if you know how to bring people together, like, it doesn't have to be just for an event. That same type of skill set could be applied to any type of form of business, you know. And so,
did you end up majoring or minoring in event management while you were here? I'm currently minoring in event management, so I would love to hear what they had offered for you when you were attending Central.
Well, they definitely didn't offer event management. You know, that's pretty cool. You know, my major was business administration, and then marketing management was my.
Me too.
You know, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I mean, that's great that they offer that. You know, that major now. I mean, I can definitely see like what I was doing then if I had classes and started learning about that. Then, I mean, it could have gave me a lot easier road, but like the story of consistency and persistence, man. I mean, I started doing just, you know, really just wild parties at Central, man. I was organizing, you know, they probably started out as some house parties. I don't really remember those, but there used to be this Elks Club on, I think, 5th and Main, 3rd and Main, or whatever. And I used to rent that out and did that like monthly, and we'd get like 1,000 people like packed in that place. I don't know. It's probably renovated to look something totally different now, but but I used to always do these parties. But but it all started from somewhere. There was another person by the name of Cravey Crave. He was a DJ there a long time ago, man. But yeah, he had started doing the parties, and he was also a radio DJ. So I I was trying to learn from him. So I started carrying his crates, kind of figuring out how to do it. And once I seen them do it, I think they were doing it. They had like 300 or 400 people, but I kind of took some of the stuff that I learned from, being in the city and then applied it, man. So when I was doing events there, it wasn't just the paper flyers anymore, the 8.5 by 11s and posting it. I would get like 5,000, 10,000 flyers and give it to every student, go to every dorm. Sorry.
Wow.
And then go to other colleges and stuff too. So we started making these events that we were getting people from like Wazoo, UW, and, so we kind of made it bigger. And then before you know it, there was a long line all the way down Main Street coming to these events, And so that consistency from doing it there, I kind of applied it to different businesses, and that's kind of where Sky Movement, came from. So I kind of started that right out of college.
That's awesome. When you were planning your events at Central, were you going by the name Sky Movement at the time?
I don't know what I was. No, it would just be a name and a theme. I think I did start like a little production company. I was named Composing Chemistry, but that was all like I was making beats and stuff. I turned my little dorm into a studio and start making beats for the artists I was bringing in from out of town and stuff. And I was just trying to find different ways to kind of, vertical business structure, like bring them into town, give them a beat, make a song with them, start doing some marketing for them, put them on tour, that kind of stuff, it was like the early stages of that,
Oh yeah, I have a question. Who are some people in your life that like really inspired you and helped you stay persistent and consistent throughout your life?
Man, there's multiple people, from football coaches to, parents. I really learned a lot from, just my upbringing growing up, I think my dad went back to college at like 30 or 40 years old or something like that, just to kind of provide a better life for his family. So, seeing him do that kind of encouraged me too, but like, as far as the drive, man, it's just got to be something that's in you. You got to always know you want to achieve something better and, just consistently, feed that drive by learning and networking and, finding somebody that knows a little bit more than you and seeing how they can, kind of help you and guide you in your situation, But yeah, to answer that question specifically, there's multiple people, even like I said, from Cravey Crave, a long time ago, I learned from him, picked his brain, went to the radio station, and then just multiple people. There's, people that work there as well, just kind of figuring out different pieces. It's like to the puzzle that kind of make your life, So, yeah, there's a lot of people, but I would say, my father and my mother was a big influence just starting out. It started there. Having that support system is great. I mean, you have a great upper hand on a lot of people. When somebody says you can do it, man, it makes a lot of difference. So.
Do you have a few memories you had from your early career where you realized the importance of being persistent and remaining consistent?
Yeah, man, there was a lot of you're gonna always be faced with adversities. You know, I'm since we're talking about Central, I'll kind of go back to, even the things that I were doing there. That some of those events that got so big that I was getting a lot of pushback from the city and different things. And if you really, let those type of things bother you, you'll probably just stop right there, because they were really making it harder for me. But if that's something you really want to do, I mean, you find ways to make a mutual beneficial situation for everybody, So in that case, just events were getting big. There wasn't really wild, but we just started dealing with the city a little bit more often. Had to hire some police officers to help manage some of the on-site things. That's it on a smaller, I wouldn't say smaller level, but then, look, fast forward 5-7 years, and we're negotiating deals with Universal, which, when we were negotiating the publishing deal, initially, you just want to get your foot in the door. So, I mean, I'm not saying you agree to everything that they give you, but you agree to, this is going to be a good way to kind of step into the industry.
Yeah.
It can be hard getting out of those situations when you do become successful and kind of prove yourself. But, if you're persistent and if you can, there's always, I would say there's always a way to kind of come to some mutual ground if you know the situation on both parties, almost like a debate team. You got to know the other person's side and your side, and there you can figure out a common ground. But if you don't stay consistent and persistent, you definitely give up before you even get to that level. Man, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, a lot of it is learning as you go as well, man. I mean, I learned a lot as I go. I probably didn't get half of the permits I was supposed to get, starting, and then it kind of went to, like, we do an annual festival called the Dope Music Festival at the Tacoma Dome here. The first one I did, man, I really didn't know I knew what I was doing from the standpoint. I've done a lot of concerts and stuff, but this was my first time. I booked Chris Brown. I think it was Schoolboy Q at the time, Tyga, and some other artists too. And we had around like 12,000 people over there. And it was definitely like a big experience. But going into that, I hired all the right people, that can help me produce something of that magnitude, But I mean, a lot of the stuff I was doing was just learning, man. It was a big learning curve. So you got to be able to are willing to kind of put yourself out there, and like, it could be a big mistake if it didn't go right. But I mean, it went right. Everybody showed up. Tickets were sold. It was a great event. But man, I mean, it's definitely something that you gotta. So there's always going to be some risks you have to take. But I would say with the consistency and persistency, you see at the level of probably starting at the Elks Club or whatever. And then, I never really kind of dreamed about doing a major festival or concert, but, it's probably more than 5 to 7 years later. But, that's what persistency and consistency kind of turned into, doing our own major independent festival. And we still continue to do to this day. It was actually supposed to be July 4th this year. And, due to the COVID-19 situation, it's postponed. But, things you have to deal with, life.
Yeah, Richard, you mentioned like right after your time at Central, you kind of started up Sky Movement. And I was wondering, was there any like setbacks you had to face early on? And how did you continue to overcome them?
Man, yeah, there's a lot of setbacks, man. I mean, yeah, definitely me telling the story now So I was like, oh, I did this event and then I did something way bigger. But there was a lot of stuff in between that time where I just kind of just fell flat on my face. And, you know, I think I wanted to start applying some of the things I was doing in college as far as doing those events. And I started doing them back in Seattle, even while I was still in college. I wanted to see if I could bring some of those same applications to you know, the city I was from. And with me not kind of spending the time there and, you know, still in college, man, I mean, it was, I don't think we had but like 10 people there sometime, 10, 15 people there or whatever. But fast forward, you know, staying consistent and kind of learning how I had to put my all in and not just kind of half do it, you know, because I've been successful before. Kind of showed me that it doesn't matter. Like, even if you're successful at one thing, you can't just go off and do like 10 ventures and not put your all into it. There has to be some level of like consistency and the effort that you put into it as well. So, yeah, I've had a lot of those kind of stories in between, but you know, and you're always going to have those ups and downs. Like, even doing the festival, even though everything went great, that doesn't mean that you actually make money all the time, because some of the time these big festivals, they don't make money till year 5 or something like that, you know. But they're done by major corporations, so they can take those losses and sustain it in between. But I'm just like an independent promoter. If I lose a few $100,000, it kind of means a little bit more to me, you know. But I want to do it next year too. So you figure out what went wrong, you know, build the brand up and figure what will make this a profitable brand, you know, overall. And how do you sustain those 5 years if you do take losses in between times? So that's like probably the biggest form of consistency and persistency that you can have, because year 5, if you can make it to that, there's a lot more opportunities. You built a brand that corporate sponsors say, okay, it's going to happen. And we see 5-year track record, 4-year track record. We know everybody's going to show up. We know he has a great attendance. So even if you lost all 4 years, you might get sponsors to believe in you, where, you know, you're making money before you even sell a ticket with sponsors, you know, and you really kind of know how to leverage every single piece of asset that's in that event. So it might be a corporate sponsor for, I don't know, you walk in, you have the activation booths, you know, and then you might have just a lounge, and you can turn that into, there's so many different ways, you know, by just having that experience. But if I would have stopped at year 1, I would have never got that far. But year 5, you know, with licensing and everything that we've learned thus far, we could sell all 5 years of TV licensing, because we all filmed all of them, you know, to make maybe a Netflix type of documentary that may cover all the losses and expenses 4 years prior, you know, if that was the case. You know, I'm making this kind of example, but not necessarily we haven't lost all those years. I'm just kind of giving you an example of how just kind of having a game plan, being persistent and sticking to it even during those rough times can make a big difference, you know. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you touched on how to navigate different risks and leverage assets. How did you decide which risks were worth taking, and how did it go for you?
Man, I'm not like a math guy. You know, I do know math from the standpoint of, you know, I know how to budget and everything, but I'm not like a mathematical risk taker. I'm more of a feeling risk taker, which is good and bad. You know, like if I want to do it, 1,000 people could tell me, no, it's not the right thing. I'm still doing it, you know?
Do it.
Yeah.
I was like, all these calculations say this is not the right thing to do. And I'm like, well, I kind of want to do it anyway. So it's going to get done, you know? So, man, for me, And like I said, it's not always the best thing, but for me, it's based on feeling. Because if I feel like I want to do it and it's something that I'm passionate about, it's going to get done regardless. But if a calculation tells me, to do it a certain way, says do it a certain way and I'm not passionate about it, I'm probably not going to do it to the best of my abilities, So I kind of do what I'm passionate about. And I've been fortunate to be able to, make a way doing it the way I want to. And I have good business partners and stuff like that. My biggest, my partner through probably most of my businesses is my brother. And I used to bring him to Central too. He was young. I think he was like 13 or 14.
Wow.
But he's my business partner now, and he's probably the reason why I'm doing more music stuff than just event stuff, because he ended up actually being an artist, and I picked him up from high school one day. Actually, it's a cool story. I picked him up from high school while I was out of on break from college, and he was rapping me some lyrics, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Is that like Fabulous or something? Is that his new song?" He was like, "No, that's me." And I was like, "Yeah, right." And so he gave me some more stuff, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's dope, man." And then it kind of felt like I had a reason for that. I was doing all this like event production and music related stuff, And then we started working together. He formed a group. Well, we formed a group together for him. Through that, man, we just kind of really focused on the artistry. So with the publishing, he's my business partner, and he's a successful writer and producer. He's multi-platinum now, man. We've written for Nicki Minaj, Meek Mill, Rick Ross. Jay, we did that song "What's Free" with Jay-Z and Jay-Z, Meek Mill, and Rick Ross. We have a pretty extensive catalog, but yeah, I mean that all kind of came from that conversation a while back, So yeah, that's one of the other things I kind of touched on earlier with the publishing, Universal. That's my business partner in the Sky Movement. So
that's awesome being able to work with your brother, especially when he was so young and you picked him up, and then it ended up working out great in the long run too. That's
yeah.
That's very
amazing
story. Yeah.
And so Sky Movement, he's my business partner. After a while, I kind of created another entity too called Sky Creative, which is kind of touching more on the marketing aspect of what I learned in college. And so that's basically like a creative agency. Like we do event marketing stuff, but it's more like I have designers, video production team. Like we'll create a whole brand identity for a client and create a whole advertising campaign and stuff like that. So those are, but it all kind of stemmed from the event production, because through event production, I learned that event sponsorships is probably like the key thing, man. Like it's key to mitigate your loss, So if you want to make sure you're always making money, make sure you got sponsors, but just kind of creating, making your event launch pad for different brands. That's kind of how it steered me back into my whole marketing aspect. I've used these event production as just an event marketing launch pad for these brands. So if you're reaching the same target market as a particular brand, let's try to figure out ways to integrate them into this event as much as you can. And not only can I get an on-site activation where I could reach 10,000 people that I was trying to get to, online, digitally, you can reach, have millions of impressions of people, So figure out how to make that all work and that kind of got me using all the resources I've been using over the years, kind of brought them together as far as like graphic designers and videographers and all those people I've been using for my own commercials and stuff like that. I kind of now brought them all in-house so we could provide services for other people too. So it's kind of what we're doing now, along with Sky Movement as well. Sky Movement is still like a major portion of this. But Sky Creative is like everyday. It's an everyday thing, you know. Whereas a event or a song is kind of like, you know, we're always working on stuff like that, like, you know, working on the next release dates and things. But like every day, you know, we're creating some type of campaign.
Rich, how would you define leadership, and what kind of leader do you try to be?
I try to be a leader that leads by example, you know, because it's one thing to kind of tell people to do something and you're not willing to do it yourself, you know. I think what people would say about me that work for me, that, you know, I'm always like in the trenches with them, you know. I definitely kind of care about the team and making sure that their needs are being met, along with, you know, meeting the needs of the company as well. But I think that's a valuable part of leadership, because there's always ups and downs, especially being an entrepreneur, man. Like, to get to a point where you're saying you're doing something real big, you know, there's probably a lot of ups and downs that went, you know, that you had to go through to even get to that point, you know. Yeah, I mean, being an entrepreneur, you can definitely be up one day and then take a tremendous loss and have to rebuild again. So that's where that consistency and persistency comes up. Because, I mean, there is a level that you would get to where you probably can, you know, sustain and not take a hit, as much of a hit, but you definitely are. I mean, it's I definitely would say it's a risk, but the reward could be very nice too. So, but as far as leadership, yeah, I think I'm definitely one of a leader that will try to bring people together that know a little bit more than me. Well, hopefully a lot of bit more than me in certain subjects, you know, and just somebody that can organize the people to have the vision to bring a great outcome, you know. Because as much as I do the creative stuff, I'm not a great graphic designer. You know, I can kind of visualize the whole campaign, give the theme, and then direct them on what I'm looking for. But if you put me in front of a computer and tell me to design something, I'll probably design the worst thing that you've ever seen. You know, so I'm yeah. So I would say I would like to bring the right people together, and it's way more fun to have a lot of brilliant people around you, and, you know, have that type of brain trust and get together and come up with creative ideas, man. So definitely not the type of leader that needs to always be right or the best at everything and, you know, dictate. It's more about, you know, bringing people together that can work together, you know, and the chemistry, making sure the chemistry is right, you know. So
yeah. As your company started to expand and grow, did you face any challenges being a leader with more bringing in more people, kind of letting them see that vision and mission?
Yeah, man. I mean, most people, especially being an entrepreneur, it's learn from experience, man. So bringing in those people, especially like you said, as you grow, like that chemistry might not be right. And you need everybody's chemistry to be on point in order to, you know, have people around each other every day. Like now I notice it right away. And I'm like, if that person is valuable to the team, I might have to get rid of or not bring that particular person that's kind of aggravating the whole situation into the room can disrupt everything, you know. So you got to kind of take note of that like right away. And before, I probably, you know, when I first started, I probably wouldn't have noticed it as much. Or just like, well, everybody just has to deal with it because we need this new person, you know. No, there's a way to really kind of manage the situation. If you still want to keep that person on board, maybe they can work from home and turn in certain things, you know, versus kind of being around and disrupting the whole like flow of things. So like managing that is something that you kind of have to learn with experience and but yeah, and kind of through trial and error, you know, kind of figure out.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of my even hires until this day are like independent contractors.
Mm-hmm.
So what we kind of do with Sky Creative is help people start their own businesses. You know, like we started Sky Creative at a building downtown Tacoma, where we were right next to this. What was it? Northwest College of Art and Design was our next door neighbors. So we recruited a whole bunch of college interns from there, and we still continue to have a partnership with them to this day, even though we're not in the same building. But a lot of what we were doing was bringing young talent, you know, and instead of just hiring them, we kind of had this this program called Ventureship, where it's kind of like an internship, but we help you start your own business too. So like most of the designers like are independent contractors. Still kind of go through a hiring process where we know if we're going to bring on somebody, but like my lead designer to this day is like, I help her start her own company. So, you know, she can build something for herself as well, you know? And so that's kind of how our business model is with Sky Creative. But like to get in as a designer, I definitely would have you interview with her. You know, if you come in through video production, I'll definitely have you interview with, even though they're an independent contractor and have their own company, I definitely have you interview with our head videographer, you know, because they notice things that maybe I don't, you know, because I'm not in there editing and I might not even know all the technical terms of the equipment and things like that. So they definitely have to be at the hiring process. My part of the interview is basically seeing the way or figuring out the way that people think, you know, and the type of questions that I would ask, and the big picture question is just to see if they're going to be a part of the team, or, you know, like, how do you want to use your talents to change the world type of questions, you know, and where do you see yourself kind of doing that in this company type of thing. And they get all down to the nitty gritty specifics. So.
That's a great opportunity that you allow for young adults, especially college students. It's really hard. A lot of times when we're looking for jobs, I mean, especially because I'm in the marketing industry also, jobs, they really want people with already years of experience. And so it's nice to have a way of getting your foot in the door. That's a great opportunity.
Yeah, man, because I mean, like, if you really think about it, I mean, the fresh new ideas are the things that are going to help change the world. It's not going to be just the older generation that already stuck in their ways. You know, obviously you got to have people to kind of guide different situations, but like new and improved ideas, you know, and because I mean, even with schooling and colleges, you know, I kind of, what I've really figured out through going to college is that the way you're challenged is kind of helps you with your mentality kind of and how you learn in college, you know. Like I know at Harvard and some of those schools, it's like if you I didn't go to Harvard, I went to Central. But from what I've heard, it's challenging the professor and saying, well, let me figure out, you know, if this is true or not, and kind of challenging with of learn. It's kind of, you know, it's a whole new way of thinking. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna teach this to you because it's always been right, so just take it. You know, it's like challenging a theory or things like that kind of bring on that new way of thinking, you know. So I feel like that's how we kind of challenge college students. But you get that new way of thinking. I mean, because even my way of thinking from your guys' way of thinking, even though we had the internet too when I was coming up, but it's just the way it shrinks the world, you know, is way different, man. Like when I was in high school, it was the dial-up, you know, the dial-up internet, you know, sound like a fax machine, you know, but you didn't have this everything at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, me thinking of things and back then was all based on that reality, you know, of having to wait. No, I don't want to wait 10 minutes to get or 20 minutes to get on the internet. And then, you know, what was it, AOL or something back then, or whatever. But now everything's at your fingertips. So a new way of thinking is, you know, so I definitely want to be a part of that, you know, more so than, you know, just relying on the older ways of doing things. So I think it definitely brings a lot more creativity and inspiration, you know, to the whole team. Having college students versus just hiring a 10-year veteran, 20-year veteran, you know, in some of these cases. So
I was just wondering, like, what's next for you and Sky Movement going forward?
Well, man, I mean, right now is kind of figuring out, I mean, we've had to evolve even these last few months just with this whole COVID-19, man. I mean, we were just about to release our lineup for this festival, about to go on sale with tickets, and then this hit, and we don't know when we're going to do the next festival, you know. So we started doing a lot of virtual, working on a lot of virtual tours and things like that. So we're still working on the Dope Fest. Just don't know when that date is yet. The artist and my business partner that I was telling you about, his name is Clem Rashad, so go check him out. We're working on his next project, but he's also working on a lot of other people's projects as well. So we have about 3 or 4 new songs that are coming out through other artists, but he'll start releasing again soon. Sky Creative, we are working on a lot of different clients' campaigns right now. And then we're working on this, what we call a creative cafe. It's kind of like an internet cafe, but it's all for creatives, just an outlet for, you know, creatives to come to. And we're just about to open that up. And then, you know, this COVID-19 hit. So don't know when that's going to officially open up. But those are things that are kind of in the works right now. I'm probably forgetting about some things, but those are primary things. So.
Well, thank you, Rich. It was great having you on this week, and good luck with everything. There's brighter days ahead of us, and for your company, of course. Thank you again, Wildcats and Tommy. I hope you guys have a great weekend.
All right, you guys have a great weekend as well, and thanks for having me. I always love coming back to Central Washington and, you know, lend some experience. So
go Cats. Thanks, Wildcats. Join us next week for more leadership life lessons with CWU alumni.
If you want to see any of our previous episodes of Word to the Wildcat, please check out our social media or cwu.edu/leadership/engagement.